Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Mike with smartoptiontrading.com. I'm going to put this out there for free today because there's a lot going on. If you want to join us, link in the description below. But let's talk about what just happened here in the markets and today. And let's start off with the beginning of the day and pre-market before we get into the fun. Beginning of the day, we were down a little bit pre-market, and here's where the ADP employment came out. It was hot again, another little inflationary number, and the market sold off up until about 12:30, at which point we got a little bounce as we head into the Fed. It was very low volume. There wasn't a lot going on here. Wasn't a lot to see. This is very typical Fed day when you're expecting a decision. Tight range, you run stops in both directions. So then, we knew at 2 o'clock we had the Fed announcement, then 2:30 the presser. Here's the initial reaction. At first, we dropped down, we went up, then we dropped down on the 0.7, and then we 0.75 basis point hike. And then we realized that, there was a soft language in there. Not Powell, the Fed members voted to do a 12-1 to do another 0.75 basis hike with inclusion of dovish language put into the statement. Market rallies like mad. We all made nice money on this. Okay. We chop around now as you do. Look at the size of this candle. The market played digestion. And here's when Powell came on, initially started talking. A lot of us got back in the market here. I got in, tried to get out, got 2 out of 2 for money and get a big hit on this one. And then Powell started going off the rails. And what I want to say here is not something I think I've ever seen in all my years trading. I can never remember a time where the Fed president came on and did a press conference where he so blatantly went against the Federal Reserve's statement that was just issued 30 minutes ago. This is kind of concerning. That means the Fed is not in agreement, and Powell is definitely not on board with this. And this is going to be interesting to see how everybody reacts. So the market shot down, made some nice money short, got back long, made it nice, and then the market eventually took him off as Powell was just, it was a weird press conference. It was just bizarre. And here we are in the lows, and you could look at this massive amount of this move from almost 38.88 all the way down to 38.76 in about an hour. And the market now is nervous. And what really is going on here is the Fed doesn't have our back. Powell doesn't have the market's back. One of the statements he said today, which was probably the most concerning and weirdest, was we can overshoot on raising rate hikes and slowing the economy and going into recession, and then use our tools to prop the economy back up. Well, you're in this position where you have to raise rates because you caused inflation by overstimulating the economy. So you're going to send it into recession, cause a lot of pain, and then do exactly what you just did again to pull it back up. Weird. Bottom line is the SPY's here on the 21-day with about 20 minutes to go. And I don't have a strong feeling. I suspect a lot of people are going to rewatch that press conference here and wait till they start hearing, and it opens up the door. We have some data tomorrow. We got non-farm payroll on Friday. The oscillators, which had been hot today, have cooled off into the mid 140s area, so we're no longer hot there. And the real question, what happens from here? And then the other thing that went on during this is bonds just went off a cliff and they dumped, and the dollar here is going nuts. All right. And you can see this just raging right back up after having a very weak day. So where do we go from here this week? It's very hard to tell at this point. I don't usually like to say something like that, but the truth here is I think you have to be very, very careful going into the rest of this week until these people start to speak, and maybe we start to get an idea of what's really going on behind the scenes in the Federal Reserve into next week. Things that were good today, depending what you're doing, depending if you're looking short, Tesla today, overall, another weekday follow through to the downside, never gave any strength today into that one. NVIDIA had strength out of the gate. In fact, I know a bunch of people in the room here were trading NVIDIA this morning. We talked about how well it was holding up pre-market, gave a nice pop up here before it came down. Here's the pop on the presser. AMD I traded. AMD did the same thing on the open, gave a nice pop, gave a tradable move here. You take that aside, the banks showed a lot of strength early today, but all gave it up. You can see JP Morgan was up, and then here's the huge move on and came back. And you're going to have a lot of candles that look like this. I think the thing that has to be done is take a day today, take an overnight here, see what the market wants to say, see what the talking heads come out and say. I think a lot of the last couple of weeks, the big banks and talking heads have been trying to influence the Fed. And obviously they have not had much of a role in that or anything there yet. And you just need to remain calm here. If the market wants to come in, let it come in. You know, maybe some of the best things that could happen here is we get a big sell in this market to find a bottom. What's weird here, and the other thing to add to this, and the VIX isn't moving on this. You would think the VIX would have spiked on this. I mean, look at the VIX. It's doing nothing. So a lot of inconsistencies here in this market. We'll see. One other one, I want you to keep an eye on Apple. Apple had some unbelievably big put buying on it today, massive put buying on this name. And, you know, it's given back pretty much the entire earnings move now. That's not what you want to see if you're a bull in this market. With that said, guys, I'm going to wish you a good night. Going to hang for earnings with the room for a bit, and link in description if you want to talk to us. Have a good one. Catch you guys in the AM.